Hello everyone, and good morning everyone. So welcome back to Ars Electronica Home Delivery. And as you experienced so far, today is a third edition on artistic journalism. Today, Linz is pretty cold, around 0 degrees, but as you saw, we are here in the deep space at Ars Electronica Center, where it is a very unique immersive environment. Today's theme is about deep issues. We are talking about the deep issues in this here at deep space. As we do always, we have two sessions. And here first part will be about inspirations. By utilizing this deep space, we are inviting you to be a very unique experiences to dive into this topic, deep issues. And the second part, after 30 minutes plus 10 minutes QA, 10 minutes break, and in the second part, we are focusing on special topic, critical data, to overcome the deep issues. So again, I'd like to introduce Christoph Kremer, who is the Managing Director of Ars Electronica Center, who is a guide of this really wonderful deep space. Please start.
So I try to put off my mask. It's not that easy because I have my thing here. I try this. So, okay. Perfectly. This is what we haven't rehearsed, to put off the mask during having the headset on. So we are here in the deep space, and the deep space is worldwide unique, and we use it in a lot of different ways. And one way, what we've seen in the beginning, is we invite artists to create artworks specially for this room. And this, what we have seen here, is from a Turkish art group called No Lab. And the title is Prima Materia. So it's all about the material, what we are all existed, or what we are all was created out of. The whole world was created out of, and it couldn't be a deeper issue than this. And this was this artistic audio-visual journey which they created as a starting point here. Deep Space 8K. 8K means we have 8K resolution both on the wall and on the floor. You've seen that the wall and the floor are used here. We are using 8 4K projectors. So we have 4 projectors who are displaying onto the floor, and we have a floor and 4 for the wall, and this delivers 8K resolutions. Of course, when you're now sitting in front of your computers, you won't have the 8K resolutions, but once you can come to Linz, you will see this really. We have a lot of different ways to use it, and besides the artistic, we have one what we use for medicine, for our medicine university here in Linz. And this is a collaboration between Siemens, Ars Electronica Futurelab, and the medicine university. It's a program called cinematic rendering. And in this case, it's a really great bringing together art and science. What we see here is a computer tomography data visualized in a photorealistic way. And normally, you see such a quality in cinema, in the big Hollywood movies or big movies with much budget behind. And this was the inspiring moment for the chief engineer from Siemens. He has seen the Lord of the Rings saga, and he see Gollum 10 years ago, and he then said, okay, I want this quality, photorealistic quality for medical data as well. And so he got in contact with the special effect guys from the Lord of the Rings saga, and they then make a joint venture together, and they worked on how can we display computer tomographic data into photorealistic way. I now can put away, for example, the surface of this, and this is really important, a living person. So we don't have here a computer model, this is a living person, and I can now zoom into every single detail of this person. I will do this here to go to the atlas. and now it takes a few seconds, and then it's a perfect resolution. And we use it here as anatomy teaching. So the deep space, once a week, every Monday, when normally the museum is closed, the students from the medicine university comes to the deep space and they learn anatomy by the use of this great technology. Make it a little bit brighter. And the anatomy professor, Professor Fellner, can now explain all the details based on a living person, photorealistic in normally 3D. So you need normally 3D classes here in the room when you're here. And the students are really exhausted of this because they say this is the way they want to learn anatomy, and this is the way they are really fascinating in the way our human body is working. And this, to be honest, is the second really important thing for us. We use it during our normal museum as well, showing it to our visitors. And the fascinating thing of our body, of what all the complexities are and how this is working, it's so awesome to see this. And again, we can display this in this great way. And by displaying it in this quality, you can open these questions and you can talk about it, you can discuss it.
Absolutely. So it's all about, as you say, complexity. So we are living in a complexity, in uncertainty. But as Christopher explained, now we have quite many interesting new environment and tools with new technologies. As you see today, this allows us to dive into the body and to observe the complexity of ourselves. So meaning we are also, as Ars Electronica and the Futurelab, is developing the new tool to understand that complexity in different forms. And plus, as you saw, the artistic processes, art and the sciences are very interestingly combined because, artists can be creating new opportunities and new expression to make a bridge. So connecting to the artistic journalism, today you'll see the unique usage by using this deep space. By the way, if you have any questions, please use YouTube chat, live chat. And if you have any comments and questions, we'll consider to extend that point at the end of this session.
Deep issues. Our human body is, of course, one of the really fascinating things what we can deal with. As we are in a pandemic phase, and we will go closer to this afterwards, it's always helpful to look a little bit back in time, because there are similar situations that last thousands of years, and this is what we want also to touch a little bit. And a first example I want to show you is a really famous painting. Don't say what it is, I only now open it here.
Yeah, maybe connecting to the artistic journalism, just, look back past. I think this was made in 16th century.
Yes,
right?
it was about 1550, so it's almost 470 years old. And now let's go a little bit into the original size of this painting. It's located in Vienna, in a national historical museum in Vienna. And the original size is about this, what we see here, 1.2 square, 1.5 meters. And thanks, we have technology, we can now dive into this image in a way you couldn't never do it in the original, because you're not allowed to step so close and you cannot go deep inside. We have here a gigapixel photography. It consists out of estimated 250 single images stitched together, and then we can go into this wonderful painting. Maybe some of you now know what it is. It is the Tower of Babel by Peter Bruegel. So it's more than 470 years old painting, but the story behind is much older. It's from the Holy Bible, thousands of years old. And what the background of this story, this is really a deep issue, is what is the achievement of mankind? And in this story, it was the mankind tried to get on the same level as God. A little bit similar to what happened the last years, as I suppose. We try to play God. And this was 1,000 years ago, as the same topic. Humankind was so ambitious, with so visions, to get on the same level as God and to build a rook which touches heavens. And when they are doing it, we see that Peter Bruegel really dramatically based on the daily life of the persons who are working on this rook. But when they was really close on touching heavens, God sent the different languages to this construction site. And as there were then no possibility communication on this construction site, it was closed. So is the story. And all the workers with the different languages then spread over the whole world and bring in the languages to all part of the world. And this is really a nice little image which was created here in the Bible, is that the different languages caused a lot of problems because they made the communication not longer possible. And in an unbloody way, this project was stopped by bringing in different languages to the construction site. But this is a big, big topic. What is the achievement of us humans? In which direction should we go? What should be the next steps? This was one from the Bible. Of course, they wanted to be as good as God. This failed. And this is what we have to discuss in the next years. Yeah. What is going with climate change? Could it be an achievement to stop the climate change?
Yeah, and what's the meaning of the tower, this kind of stuff in our age? And as you observe many very details, I think in a way, Bruegel is pretty known as a painter who is really good at expressing the very details about the time. So I would say, just if I imagine, he was in a way artistic journalist, who conveyed the social circumstances by in a way media art at the time, like painting. And also he is known as a painter for Triumph of the Death, which is addressing the impact of the pest, and so on and so on. And I think in this time there are many painters who dealt with the religious, Christian culture, but he also expressed about the daily lives, of really normal people. And we can learn from the paintings, so how, humans tried to be surviving in this complicated situation at the time.
And so this is really great. What Hide mentioned is when we go a little bit, zoom out a little bit, then we see that as we have this great achievement of building a tower to heavens, the daily work is going on. And we see here, down here, a little bit closer, here we see it now, women making laundry. So the normal thing is happening while we make these achievements. And this is what we should keep always in mind when we think about the deep issues, that the daily life keeps on going. And here we see this, a little up, please. Turn it a little bit up so we can see it here. Perfect. Yes, we see here they are making the laundry and they are doing what they have to do every single time, what we have to do every single time. And this, in this combination, this great artwork, I think this is a deep issue of achievements and daily life and how we bring it together. And looking in the past, of course, in now pandemic times, can help us to learn how humanity solved those problems. And so pest is one of the interesting things he mentioned. What we are for our next project, we now want to show you a new installation here in the deep space. It's called Deep Pandemia. It was created, the idea came from our Ars Electronica Futurelab. Some colleagues from Hide and from me there worked on this topic, and they tried to figure out how can we how can we make it feel the feeling of what is happening throughout the pandemic, but not on the worldwide scale, but on the daily life scale, a little bit like Bruegel did. And I will now start Deep Pandemia.
Yeah, and the Deep Pandemia and the entire initiative aims to really address, such complicated situations. But by using this deep space, what if the deep space is such a platform to discuss such invisible information about really infected, conditions? So, Christoph.
Okay.
I'm 95.
95, and I'm 94. The first part of this interactive installation is that we can go around like we move. So this is only the training mode. You see here the time in the background. And now we're going around. And as it's now a pandemic time, normally you can play here in the deep space up to 30 people. Then there would be not this G here. G means ghost. This was the idea. As we are only here 2 people, we need some more to get a little bit idea of what is a pandemic situation made of. Of course, more people than 2 come together and get infected by each other. So we are going around here. We see here these ghosts. We see 95, 94. 95 is he, the 94 is me. Yeah. And nothing is, it's completely normal.
Yeah, normal
for
situation. But of course, we are living in so-called in the time of social distance.
Yeah. And now what we see now is what we have recorded. And then we see, and this is randomly, there are some things.
I got infected.
You got you got infected, Hide, by one of the ghosts. And now we see here the people what we have recorded before. And now we see where is the circle, how can be the infection transferred. Of course, you have to get closer together, and this is what Hide did. We see it here, and he's now infected, and there are some, of course, different presets what we can choose here. And now we can get a little bit idea of what happened throughout the 1 minute, only the 1 minute of recording what we did there. So I think on a first scale, a little to understand how we want to show it. And the second, of course, and now it's getting much more deeper into daily life, and what we see in Bruegel, daily life is important. We see here now what different presets we can choose. So we have here surface spread, aerosol spread, direct spread, personal hygiene, area hygiene, and we can choose percentages. The easiest thing, of course, is to use these percentages, what our research brings out, how much is the probability to get infected. And then we can choose different scenarios. And one scenario out of daily life is driving with a bus. And this is what we now want to show you. Again, we have in the beginning, we have the situation of recording. So, okay, now we have here this bus. Bus is standing here. Hide and I want to take the bus. We have to go a little bit here. Oh, wonderful. The traffic light is green. I walk around here a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
And Hide too. And I now enter the bus.
As you can see now, this is almost life size, life scale. So here in the deep space, we can really realize kind of simulation. And why this we are tracked is because we have the laser tracker in this deep space environment, and this visualization is possible based on such very accurate data.
Yes, correct. So this is, thank you for this information. We have this laser tracking system which detects us. So I go now around in the bus and I choose somewhere to sit down here. I take this place. Hide maybe.
Yeah, I like here.
You like to stand here. It's good. And yes, we wait a little bit.
Yeah.
We see again some of these ghosts inside the bus. And now the doors are closed and the bus starts to drive around, bring us to the next
it's
point.
You see very interesting, mixture, as if, we are really on the bus and the scenery is moving because movies are designed for like that. Yeah, so, but it's all about the really daily life, isn't it, Christoph?
Completely daily life. And again, the situation when we record this is not the really interesting thing. Is now it's getting interesting. Now we see the thing, what is happening while we are doing our daily life. And we say, okay, oh my God, I'm infected, but I don't know it.
So,
but of course, I go over.
Yeah, you are infected. Right?
I'm infected now, and we see inside we have 5 ghosts infected already. I step now inside, and then I go, and there a lot of infection here. That is what the thing is, and now you see.
I hope still.
Oh
my goodness! I got
infected by now because he was going through this area where 2 ghosts were infected. Yeah. And okay, now I would say it's good, it's easily to understand how this speed of this pandemic situation comes from. It's come from that we are using our daily life, and now we can simulate this. Okay, this is not 100% scientific simulation, to be honest, but it's for us a perfect way of bringing such complexity into a feelable format. And yes, you see here now all are infected in this bus.
But of course, from this we can learn. We can think of the meaning of social distance. But of course, not just a social distance. We can talk about what's the meaning of, in our new normality. So what we should do. So then, let's go to the next.
Yes, thank you, Julian, for controlling this. And our next, we step even maximum into the past as we take a look to Egypt.
Of course, humans built many things in the past, and really, depending on the time, they used to have the power. So what's the power now in our age? But looking back, of course, we can again learn from the time.
Yeah, and one of the 7 wonders of ancient times is the Great Pyramid of Gizeh. And we step now here to start the video. What we've got here is another collaboration between Ars Electronica Futurelab and the BBC and a company in England called ScanLab, and it's part of a European Union founded Horizon 2020 project, Immersify. What we've got here is a 3D laser scan from the Great Pyramid of Gizeh, and it's a 360-degree image, 8K resolution. Wall and floor projection is used, and we are now going to dive into the pyramid and take a look what was built there about 5,000 years ago. So when we first started to take a look at the Tower of Babel, this tower is not existing any longer, maybe it never existed. This pyramid is existing since 5,000 years, and we see here the inner structure, and yes, we see there are 3 main chambers. Here we see the 2 chambers, and we see 1 chamber here in the basement. This is an unfinished one, and when we look up, we see the main chambers, one for the queen and the other chamber for the king, for Cheops. So this is a big, big grave. 20 years of building this, and now it's here for eternity. And it's a fascinating possibility to step into it, and we have here this wonderful Immersify product. Yes, and this is what of the issues again. What will be after when we are dead? What stays from us personally? What stays from us as a society? And yes, from the Egypt we can say the big pyramids are there for eternity. Now we go into one of these corridors. So normally, when we are showing this in the deep
Maybe I
space
can-
here, it's in 3D.
I
course
can pretend.
And now you can pretend to walk. This will
A
what we
little
will
bit.
do afterwards. And what our friends from the Futurelab here did, what they put together different parts of the video, and now we can decide which one we want to choose. Maybe Hide, you
Right.
can step onto this one. Again, with our laser tracking, we can now take the path to the King's Chamber. And we are going now upstairs in a few seconds, and then we will see what was really the issue of this great building. Now we can really do this. In original size, it's really, really small, this corridor. It's only, okay, does it not start? That's, maybe I do this. Yes. Pressed the pause button. Sorry for that. And now, 1.2
Yeah.
meters only is the height, and now we can here really went up and went and went and went. It's about 40 meters to go. 1.2 meters only is the height of this corridor, so it's not that perfect. But then we reach the grand gallery, and now it's more than 8 meters. We don't know why, but it was the idea there to do this. And I can now do this what every tourist normally does when they comes to the Grand Gallery. He takes a short look around, and I can now take you, and now we see, oh, this is where we were climbing up, and we see here all this structure wonderfully displayed here. This is all the quality of this 3D laser scan, but of course we want to go back, and now we are stepping further. So, and finally then this great gallery ends, and what comes then is only 1 meter high, and this was built with stone, and it was of course not the idea that it's open, but of course the robbers of the grave opened it again 1,000 years ago. And then finally we come to this place, why this pyramid was being built. It's the sarcophagus of Cheops.
Wow. Great, thank you, Chris. So what a holy place, and we are, in a way, happy to discuss with you guys about the deep issues in the deep space, and also here, as if we are in the inside of the pyramid. If you have any questions, just please post. But quite many people are a bit surprised about this deep space first, and they left some comments. And so, do you know like a background about this, deep space? So, would you tell audience maybe about the idea why we have this infrastructure?
So this is really again we can look a little bit in the past of Ars Electronica now. The Ars Electronica Center in 1996 was opened, and this was the first place to have a cave for public audience. The cave technology, it was a small place for maximum 15 persons, and there were 3D content displayed. This was 1996. And then for the new Ars Electronica Center in 2009, we were thinking about how can we develop this cave technology, and we fastly decided not to make a cave 2.0 or something like this, but to reinvent the idea and to create this deep space. A bigger room. We can normally, not through a pandemic, but we can normally have about 150 people in this room at one time, and we can display these things here. And it all was created by the Ars Electronica Futurelab. So this is nothing you can buy on normal marketplaces. You can buy it at the Futurelab, of course. And so this is what our engineers in the Futurelab thought about it. How can we make this room? And since 2009, it was a unique room worldwide. Since this year in January, there is a second deep space in Mexico, in a science center in Mexico, where the Ars Electronica Futurelab exported this idea of a deep space to Mexico. So we have now true deep space. And of course, we are trying to bring more deep space around the world. Then we have a net of deep spaces. And of course, we can bring the contents to each other, and we can really profit from each other.
Yeah. And looking at this experience, I imagined also very drastic change of the meaning of storytelling and history in future. Because at the time, like this time, nobody had any medium or, media to record, what it is, or what's the wish of the king, or, there are no journalistic perspective or media communication. But now, everyone is becoming a medium, right? So what do you think about the kind of change of the meaning of the way to construct the history? Because, in the past, it was much easier, or, the authority could decide, okay, this is a history, and people learned the history. But in 21st century, it's a very deep and difficult discussion. What's going to be the meaning of history in 21st century?
That's maybe the deepest issue you can touch, because we see it now during, for example, COVID-19. Yeah. We have so different opinions from every, and it's not easy to say, okay, this is this wing or this is that wing. It's through the whole society. And who is now the authority to say this is correct and this is not correct? It's so difficult today. Even the journalists, of course, have to deal with it. They have to bring out what is sensible for the society. But what is this? And these questions is in the history. Again, when we look back on 2020 in 5 or 10 years, then it will be possible for us to decide, to judge. Was this the correct way? Should it be this and this? Should it be this? When you're in this process, it's really difficult to do. And this is what good journalistic should do, should solve a little bit too.
And I think the basis is about the science, I would say. Because if we don't believe the scientific fact, of course, we don't have the social protocol or, the argument why we need to do so. Yeah. And the second point might be like this, space, or, really stop to think. Because not just digesting the fast news, like a fast food, but how to be a responsible person who can digest such kind of scientific fact to really make our own actions individually, right? But of course, as a social member of the responsible person in our society, I think this kind of opportunity or space environment might be giving us a kind of common kind of stance and to discuss, to deepen what we should do. Because, we are watching at the fact in this space in a way. So this case, okay, what shall we do together? I think this is maybe the very interesting impact from deep space discussion. From your daily lives, of course, unfortunately today, we don't have any visitors, but when, you open the deep space, I suppose you utilize this as a really place for dialogue, right?
Yes, this is maybe one of the things what is really important to mention is then when we have the normal museum opened, the deep space program is really variety rich, and every single presentation what we are doing is not only a presentation, it's from the first one, it's live. Every time there's someone like me who makes the presentation, and the one who is presenting is always interacting with our audience, is discussing, is making this dialogue, because if you don't do this, you don't have to come to a museum like this. You can take this, that there are a lot of great documentaries you can watch on Netflix or Amazon or wherever, or from the BBC. You don't have to come to a museum. But what we as a museum can really achieve is the dialogue based on the information what we can deliver. And so it's great to have the deep space. And you see there is, about this pyramid, of course, there are thousands of documentaries. the real point is you need only 5 minutes of being in the deep space, seeing this, and then you are able to discuss about the bigger meaning of this. Of course, we don't want everyone to come to the museum to be then a perfect archaeologist after here, but we want them to be able to discuss something like these issues.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris, for its time.
Yeah.
And as you really participate in remotely, I think today from all over the world, visitors came to this really special point. And also that might be a unique situation now, because museum is not just located in a physical location, but located on the net. So how we can think of hybrid, physical and online as well. So that's gonna be our challenge. But we are very happy to develop deep dialogue, deep talks, as we've discussed today. Today is one of the just starting point to inspire you. Thank you very much for your attention and participation. I hope you really dived into the deep space through the tiny maybe browser on your Mac or Windows or whatever your computers or iPad. So the first part is being over. And after 10 minutes break, we are stepping into the second session with Manuel Nobu, who is a professor in Kunst University Linz. And we are more diving into the precise and also artistic actions to deal with critical data. And now we are living in the society with many data information. How artists are really trying to be open such things to the public to create the dialogue. That's gonna be the focus. Then after 10 minutes, let's see you again. Then stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello again, welcome back to the deep space. Today we are broadcasting, live casting from this wonderful, very unique environment. And the second part is talking about critical data. Today I have wonderful guests from my colleague and a really great friend, and Manuel Nobu. So welcome to this deep space. And she's a professor for critical data at the University of Arts and Industrial Design Linz. Today, she will be giving you artistic research related to critical data by using this huge environment of the deep space. So, Manu, please.
Thank you very much, Hide. It's actually the first time that we can talk about critical data in a framework like this. So a very warm welcome also from my side. I wanted to really thank also Hideaki and Ars Electronica for having this possibility. And within 30 minutes, we will dive a little bit into theories, but I also collected nice examples for you. And I would be happy to discuss and also afterwards with you some of your points and your questions that you might have. So please feel free to join us online and to pose your questions. I would like to start with a quote here that you actually see here also on the screen. In computers, the mathematical objectification never transforms back into a life world sense, but at best into contemplation or life of a second degree. Like scientific visualization, artificial life, and we will come back to this then afterwards, universally programmable computers are so cut off from human experience that there is a danger that they would program their users as well. I started with this quote from Friedrich Kittler, who died in 2011, but who was one of the extremely inspiring minds and media theorists. And I want to elaborate with you on data, big data, small data, critical data, machines, algorithms, and self-training models in order to develop an understanding of the importance of, and this is now my proposal, of a maybe possible counterculture on critical data in art. And you might ask, like, okay, critical data, what is it actually? So if you make your research online, you will find the term mainly in an economic context. Data governance practice helps organizations prioritize IT work that improves revenue and product quality, a description of parameters within which work must be performed. Critical data varies by industry and context, but all in all, critical data must be managed to prevent business disruption, loss of revenue. It's about proper governance of critical data that can maximize revenue, customer satisfaction, and operational cost efficiency. But you also can find critical data studies, and there's even a Wikipedia entry about it. And it's about critical data studies, which is the systematic study of data and its criticism. And the field was named by scholars like Craig Dalton and Jim Thatcher. But prior to its naming, and I think this is also very important in the context here of Ars Electronica, significant interest in critical data studies was actually generated by Donna Boyd and Kate Crawford, who posed a set of research questions for the critical study of big data and its impact on society culture. And its name implies critical data studies draws heavily on the influence of critical theory which it applies to the study of data. And in our Ars Electronica Center, and I think Hideaki mentioned it also in the first session of artistic algorithm, journalistic artistic journalism, he was actually presenting you Understanding AI from Kate Crawford. And this is Kate Crawford that is actually very much into the question of what a critical data studies actually could look like. So critical data at interface culture in Linz at the Art University. What could this mean? It's the artistic research on data and data processing systems through various theoretical and practical frameworks, some of which include the analysis of the same, technically, ethically, politically, economically, temporally, spatially, and philosophically. And all with artistic means. So if we try to bring it into an image and to bring it into a mind, it's of course, an interdisciplinary approach that we have to bring in various fields, that we have to have interviews with people from politics, from economy, from technology, of course, but also from humanities. And this brought me then actually to the idea that art and journalism use actually methods similar, which means we have communication processes in art. We have, as also in journalism, mediation processes, translation processes, investigation processes, and emotional processes. And this is why I think especially critical data, so with critical data in art, we are investigating like journalists. We are up to date with what our world actually looks like. And I think this is also why it's important that we focus on these very recent and urgent questions. So I also mentioned it already, why critical data? And here is, I am posing actually three, for me, the most important questions. There are for sure a lot of other questions, but is technology still what we have learned about? Is technique and technology still what we have learned about? This is also based a lot on talks that I had with Ali Nikrang, who was actually also part of the last session from artistic journalism. Because he was mentioning, or is it the time of calculators actually not that we can bear now with our time, because now a calculator is a closed system, but now we have open systems. We have systems that are learning where different inputs, different data are actually coming in. So is it not to compare anymore now with the time or with as we actually were trained and learned that technology is precise and correct? The second question is, do we have well-functioning role models? Do we have examples, cases that show how we deal in a positive way with big data and AI? We know that we cannot go back anymore, so we have to deal with AI, and we want to actively take also part in shaping tools that help us, help our society, help us part of a bigger environment, if close or even if far away of our bodies. And the third question, of course, which kind of frameworks, which kind of regulations, which kind of contextual formulations are actually necessary to stop the advance of just a few companies? And these three guidelines, these three questions are for me very important that I actually share with my students and with my colleagues and what we're in the moment working on. Of course, as an academic always is, often is doing, so first let's go into history. Let's have a look to Ramon Llull and to the Ars Generalis Ultima. What we have here, I mean, Ramon Llull was a mathematician, polymath, philosopher, logician, writer, a mystics from, at that time, Kingdom of Majorca, and his calculating disk from Ars Generalis Ultima tried to formalize the world. And I mean, formalizing the world is something that is, of course, a very old, what we also see here, an old wish. We want to understand our world. So what he actually proposed, or what he was actually developing, is this calculating disk that tried to formalize the world in order to understand its complexity. He algorithmically calculated the structure of universal principles such as goodness, power, and wisdom, which is from B to Ki, and around the letter of A, which is actually God. And it's important to say also that Ramon Llull did this especially with a religious and spiritual focus. So his aim was to convert the Muslims of Majorca to Christianity, and the calculating disk actually helped him to prove his thesis. But Llull was not the only one searching for the bigger question behind universal metaphysical questions. What is true? What is real? How is the universe or reality actually constructed? Can there be parts of reality that are in principle unknowable? And this is why I want to actually present to you the work from two master students of interface department, and who are actually suggesting the chiromancer. And the chiromancer is what it is. It's actually a hand-reading installation. It's a collaborative work that is part of the artist's separate ongoing researches at the Interface Cultures Department at Art University here in Linz. One of the artists is Giacomo Piazzi. He focused on humans' innate tendency to project intelligent behavior and meaning onto inanimate objects at part of his research. He builds thinking machines connected to the internet and deploying artificial intelligence. And in this installation, it is GPT-2. Matthias Pitcher focuses on the impact of artificial intelligence on society, especially how the extraction of large data sets from the web are forming unintended biases in current machine learning applications. The main question in trust here is, do we trust in AI? Shall we trust in AI? Is it even an old thinking in trusting in technology? Or what does a trustworthy AI actually mean? But this is not exactly what chiromancers are doing, asking you who you are and presenting actions that are vague and open for multiple interpretations, as it is just about probabilities. But above all, shouldn't we humans be as critical as AI as we are of hand readers? Or maybe even the other way around, meaning if we ended up in a world in which we trust AI systems, why don't we give up more space to those of us who search for other ways of belief and trust? Or even a value system based on diverse forms of spirituality. May I ask you to show us now the video, please? So you see it here, your hand is being scanned and has influence, your hand and the positions of your fingers, actually, as well as they are developing it also further, like how your hands looks like, has an influence on what the system is suggesting you. And is suggesting for you for what would be important for you and what is important for your future. In this very old printing system that you can actually take with you then home after when visiting the installation. Thank you very much. Danke. So these are the artists, Giacomo Piazzi, Mattias Picture, and the work just recently was finished and is actually also in a development for an exhibition in Germany that will come up. When we come now to, I mentioned the trustworthy AI, and this is something that I think is really of importance here, because when we speak about what is going on a European level and what is happening with the European Commission, it's very important that we actually reflect on this. So let me maybe try and summarize here also what was happening also in Europe. This means that in 2018, the European Commission actually started to put forward its approach to AI in communication artificial intelligence for Europe. In 2019, then they started to set up a high-level expert group on artificial intelligence, who then were delivering a report on trustworthy AI. There was especially a focus on ethics on AI, and also this term of trustworthy AI was the first time that it actually was mentioned, even though there was the question about ethical borderlines. It was, I think, 52 experts in this group, and I think there were only 4 or 6 people coming from ethics. All others were also like from industry and other institutions dealing with society. And in 2020, then the European Commission presented the white paper on artificial intelligence, a European approach to excellence and trust. And but what came out actually? And when you look for the white paper actually online, and when you see there how how trustworthy AI is actually talked about, isn't there actually a basic misunderstanding that an algorithm in itself, a model, cannot actually be trustworthy, because it's always depending on who is actually feeding it and who is actually working with it. And then the question is also, but what if trustworthy data and a trustworthy AI even comes into the hands of a not trustworthy human? So I would like to quote here also Dan McKillian, who is a philosopher and author of the article Machinic Neoplatonism, which was also very influential for the discussion in our department, and which you can also find online. So I would like to quote him also when he's saying that data science and machine learning cannot transform actually bad input into good output. So the data itself carries embedded social bias or prejudged, then so will nominally neutral output of the algorithms be. And of course the question is then also like who is, which kind of theory and which kind of agenda we are actually working with even a trustworthy AI. So, but what, my question is now also, but what can we always know? What can we actually know? So what is good or what is actually bad inputs? And actually, how can we prove it? Is there even a chance to prove it? And of course, this brings us to the question of fakes and intentionally giving misinformation, fake images, fake news, in times where bots are generating information that is even which is even more difficult here, because I just found also recently, because of the US elections, I found this very interesting article from the data scientist Emilio Ferrara, who was saying that in 2016, nearly 19% of all tweets related to the US election in that year were generated by bots. So back in 2016, bots used actually simple strategies that were easy to detect. But today there are artificial intelligent tools that produce human-like language, and we are not able to detect bots that use AI because we can't distinguish them from human accounts. These bots survive longer on social media platforms and can create botnets, which are network of bots that push the same message. So actually, in this very intransparent situation and in this very misleading and misinformation situation, on the one hand, if we speak about news, on the other hand, if we go back to history, when we go to images like the storm of the Winter Palace that went into our books in history, when we speak about the October Revolution in Russia, and Inke Ahns, a very important, for me, a German curator and on media art and digital art. She's also director of the Hardware Medienkunstverein in Dortmund. She was actually writing about it like that this was just a reenactment by Nikolai Evrevinov that he did in 1920, and actually the October Revolution was in 1917. But what we actually have in our history books is also images that are, that now we know that they are not true. So whatever the question, whatever true is, yeah. So we have to be also critical about what history actually tells us. And this is why I would like to mention here an artwork and to bring in an artwork again, because I think this is the most important thing also for us here. It's an artwork from Mouchonse Aviv that he actually did together with Dan Davy and Eran Weissenstern, and he actually also got an award here at the Ars Electronica. It's a wonderful interactive installation where where he's mentioning where it's experimental research and machine learning which aims to identify and analyze the image of social normality. So the question is, the installation is called the normalizing machine, and he is questioning what is normal. He's going back to Alphonse Bertillon, a French police officer and biometrics researcher in the 19th century, who started to research on faces of criminals and police officers, and who developed le portrait parlé, also the speaking portrait, a system for standardizing, indexing, and categorizing the human face. So this was done more than 100 years ago. But this is, of course, we speak here about archives. We speak about systems of standardizing, indexing, and categorizing. And the question is always how this is then going to be used, because we know that his studies actually have been misused by the eugenics movement and then later by the Nazis. So the question is then also in which hands is this then actually going? Who is actually then dealing with the data, and also who is actually identifying the data, categorizing them, and actually indexing them? And I think this is also a problem that we actually also have now. So who is setting the parameters, like how all these images are named, how they're standardized, how they're actually characterized? So there is a huge opacity, there is a huge intransparency, and actually we should have learned from history. The next work that I would like to show you, it's also like on the question of obscurity. It's Adam Harvey and V-Frame, also another work in the context of Ars Electronica that won a prize at Starts Prize, but also at pre-Ars Electronica. It's V-Frame, and it's also dealing with obscurity. In the other way, it's about illegal weapons that this system can actually find in videos that are in archives like the Syrian archives, in online video archives. Adam Harvey is an artist and technologist, and in this case, it's very important to mention that do we actually have enough data? Do we have enough data for researchers and for those, and even for journalists, who have to find weapons? But you can imagine, I mean, this kind of hand grenades are somewhere hidden in a video. So we would have to train an AI that can find it precisely in these massive amounts of videos that are uploaded by people who think that there has been a harassment, and or who knows that there's a harassment. So the question that is very important here is that he's actually training his own models with making actually 3D models of the weapons that are found, in order that he then can again train his own model that then can be applied for finding illegal weapons in via artificial intelligent models. I have a video here for you, so let's quickly also let Adam Harvey explain his work here.
Hi, I'm Adam Harvey, and I'm calling in from Berlin, where I am working on computer vision software for human rights groups, in particular a group called the Syrian Archive, who works on building an archive of video footage collected from both online sources and from on-ground sources in the field, and connecting with people in Syria and in Yemen and also in Sudan. They're a very interesting group, and I'm very fortunate to be connected with them. I've been, as a technologist and as an artist, working on developing a project called V-Frame. And V-Frame stands for Visual Forensics and Metadata Extraction. So more or less, I'm building a tool that helps them archive videos. And it turned into a very interesting project because a lot of artificial intelligence is built in a way that aligns with the major players in tech, and that doesn't always align with the other players in tech, which are human rights groups or independent researchers. So to kind of rebuild AI in a way that aligns with their interests is what I'm focused on. And it's, to me, very exciting what this can lead to, because in most cases we don't have training data. So one, I think, unique part of the project is that we use 3D modeling to generate synthetic training data. And then we 3D print the items because they don't really exist on the internet. And so we have, we're forced to create data because there is none. And I often think about how a lot of AI systems have grown up on free data or non-consensual data. And the way that we approach this project is we don't have that opportunity. And so that forces us to innovate. And the two innovations are using 3D modeling to render synthetic data, and then actually 3D printing it and making these sculptures that are hopefully not too convincing, but convincing enough to train a neural network. And well, we've been working on a collaboration for a few years, and the first outcome is underway right now, where we're processing several 100,000 videos from the Yemeni conflict, and then we'll go on to process several million videos from the Syrian conflict. And it's a long process. It's a forensic process, and it's one that has a lot of humans in the loop. So to speak a little bit more about AI, all I'm doing is making tools that make the researcher's job easier. So it's quite humble AI, I think. Try to remove the hype and just focus on building tools, but some of them are quite interesting compared to what you could do just a few years ago. So it is exciting how
stop here,
these new tools can
in terms
be
of
leveraged.
Having a look on the time, at the time. So after the question of how data collections come together, what accountability in standardizing, indexing, categorizing means, or the question if we have the right data to reach a goal in finding illegal objects like here through masses of information, or if not, what can be done if training data are insufficient. So now I want to enter the question, ask which theory or agenda is actually inscribed in hidden data and algorithms. And this brings me now to this wonderful project from Caroline Cinder. It's the feminist data set, because she's actually going into in very detail. So what does an AI process actually need? It needs data labeling, it needs data training, it needs selection of an algorithm to be used. It needs to develop the algorithmic model, and then the design of how the model is placed in a chatbot and what the chatbot looks like. And this is what she's actually doing in workshops. And this is what we are also doing now in December with Caroline Cinders at the Art University and Interface Culture Department. So it's very important to go into more details about all these steps where we can also actually have a say, that we can actually contribute, but first of all, actually, we have to understand it. And so for me, the question of what is then a possible counterculture, or it could be critical data, a possible counterculture. I want just to mention here the example of Amazon, because actually Amazon knows what you are buying, of course, and what you want to sell also. Amazon also knows when you are buying on another platform, because, for example, if you use Amazon Pay, Amazon knows in the meanwhile what you are eating, healthy or not, via Amazon Fresh, which is offered in some cities already in Germany. Amazon knows what you are saying when you're using the digital assistant Amazon Alexa. Amazon knows what you are doing when you have installed for security reasons the Amazon Cloud Cam, which is a security camera for your home. And I just recently learned from Sebastian Schmieg, another artist from Germany, that Amazon has even access to our home if you are buying the Amazon Key Kit in combination with the Amazon Cloud Cam, because Amazon knows then when you are coming home and when you normally leave. In addition, Amazon is very active in developing face recognition software and related databases with Amazon Recognition. Amazon knows which work you are maybe outsourcing and delegating to others, or if you are a requester or a Turker via Amazon Mechanical Turk. And because with Amazon Web Services, you are actually managing manage everything that is cloud-based, and of course Amazon Kindle and Amazon Prime is also contributing to your profile. So there's one company that actually knows a lot about us, could know a lot about us if we use it. However, it's a wonderful critical design proposal was offered related to Amazon Alexa, and it's called Project Elias, that you can also find here at the Ars Electronica Center. And I want to highlight this because this is also a form of a very critical design approach. Yeah? What is it doing? It's just disturbing Alexa. So it is a device that is set on Alexa and that is just constantly disturbing via sound information, but you can also program it and you can activate it. And then you can actually use Alexa as you want to use it. So reality, going back to Dan McKillen, reality is not directly accessible to us as facts that can be recorded by suitable devices and rendered as a theory. While we can access reality, we cannot do so without some level of meaning making. What we sense through whatever device already has meaning to us, and meaning is not an object of sensory perception. What it also presents is a pattern of cognition which enables the seeing. And seeing is, or understanding things in a bigger context, understanding its meaning, wonderful project by Lauren McCarthy. The Golden Nika from this year, someone project where she is actually delegating the services that Alexa is normally doing to the audience in a gallery. What you see here up in this image. And what you can do is you can control the home of 4 people. You can put on the light, you can switch off the fan, you can switch on the heater, you can make different light settings. So you can control the home, and you are in constant contact with the 4 participants. So it is a situation that, so there's a nice anecdote also that, for example, one of the participants were cooking, and of course it could also happen that some of the visitors in the gallery then, for example, are just switching on and off all the time the light. And then the person in the kitchen saying, well, please, can someone leave on the light because I'm cooking and it might get dangerous. So it was a very nice situation of the question then of this participant, wouldn't it even be better that there is an artificial intelligence that is not joking, is not making a fake with me? So just as an anecdote and about these very, very diverse levels that especially this artwork has. And this brings me now to the end, and where I would like to quote here also Hannah Arendt, because very cynically Hannah Arendt is saying that we are more oriented on our outer space than on our brain. And in case that our brain structure, so when it comes to intelligence and when it comes to our own intelligence and to our own way, how we are actually make meaning of what we know and what we actually have, in case that our brain structure, so the physical material condition of human thinking, prevents us from mentally comprehending the things we do, from which it would indeed follow that we have no other choice than to invent machines that take over our thinking and speaking. If it should turn out that recognizing and thinking have nothing more to do with each other, that we can recognize and therefore also produce considerable more than we are able to understand thinkingly, we would really have fallen into the gap of ourselves, as it were, creatures abundant by all mind and all good spirits. And please let me understand here Hannah Arendt as an invitation to think about the latest project from Paolo Cirio here, that you see here, Capture Police by Paolo Cirio. It just happened recently. He did an exhibition in September, October 2020 now, and it's about face recognition, especially in Europe, and this imbalance that we actually have with face recognition, because now in France, in this very moment, and actually on the last weekend, there have been demonstrations about this new law that is going to be installed in France, so that it's not possible to do pictures or images of police officers anymore. So face detection in France is actually, as in many other countries in Europe, very well developed. But on the other hand, if artists like Paolo Cirio want to use them, they are not allowed. Let's have a quick look into his project.
So maybe we can start to discuss maybe by using this one. So, but you can, of course, continue.
So he was printing out faces from male and female police, so policemen and policewomen. And it's part of his artwork that
I collected 1,000 public photos of police officers taken during protests in France. I then processed them with facial recognition software to provide 4,000 faces of officers that now can be identified by name.
So he even built a database, and he is offering a database.
So I think in 21st century from now on. So thank you very much for the very interesting connection from really artistic journalist, because he himself, Paolo Cirio, is also mentioning often about the importance of artistic journalism. And today you explained about the connectivity, the data and critical data and this artistic journalism. And a very interesting point is in 21st century, talking about the collective and also people, democracy and autonomy aspect. Looking back at history, of course, social will, was existing, like by Rousseau, social will. But because of the internet growing up, social will 2.0 was occurred. It's a kind of, really different approach to see the society, because people are individually having the will, and this is going to be the collective, sometimes swarm. But what I would like to discuss with you today in a brief time is also this will be stepping into gradually to social will 3.0, meaning not just humans, like artificial intelligence or many things, or including nature, the kind of different types of will be popping up. So so how to confront with this? And I think Paolo Cirio and artists, so they are really trying to convey the stories, how democracy is going to be, what's the meaning of social will, or what's the interrelation between humans and the data. So what do you think about the role of artists first? So that's my first question. Of course, you explained a lot about the artistic activities it's different from normal journalism or a governmental report. It's a kind of social questioning, not scientific questions at all. I feel this is a really powerful moment, and also, as you explained, for using the data effectively, like VFrame is really to deal with complicated issues, global issues, by having a really kind of good perspective to utilize the artificial intelligence for the sake. But would you tell us about the very important point and factors for artists, how in dealing with the data? And so would you tell us about this point?
Yeah, first of all, now I think this is what you also mentioned, man. Paolo Cirio is maybe even one of the best examples, because he himself, also sees himself as an artistic journalist, as not a journalistic artist, I would rather say. He's also an artistic activist, so he's even one of the founders of the campaign against facial recognition in Europe and to ban facial recognition. So it is his aim to politically act and to also inform others. I mean, he's doing via artistic means, and via artistic methods. And he's researching on it, but he's also communicating, mediating, what I actually mentioned in the beginning. So this form of investigation, this form of mediation, this form of communication is of course different to journalists, but we can use our tools as artists, and I think this is very important. On the other hand, what I also would like to say, it's not that I'm requesting, for example, that we are now all being activists. I think the most important thing is more in the sense of Hannah Arendt. I think we have to understand ourselves as active persons. We have to understand, we have to use our own brain. We should not just use everything that is coming from outside. I mean, we ourselves have so many things that we actually know, and we also should act. So we should use what we have, and we should act related to this. And we should see ourselves, of course, in a greater context, in a bigger context, and should take part. And I think this way of part-taking, and I know the word of participation is already so much overdone, and especially also in my case. But however, I mean, it's absolutely important how to come to a situation. And artists like Paolo Cirio, artists like Adam Harvey, Caroline Sinders, Lauren, I think they are the ones who are even inviting us to think about it and even to work with them. Because what these artists are also doing is they create formats, not only that you go in exhibition and see what they are doing, they do workshops. They involve you in discussions. You are negotiating in a group of like-minded people, you feel secure. Yeah? You're not giving, so you can even test yourself. So even though you don't have a background in this, you can just like go into it, you can work with them, and maybe it helps you maybe to understand relations better, to see the complexity behind, but not to be afraid of just doing something and stepping into, at least into one direction, being active.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing.
Super, and a very timely content, as we discussed, because the speed and also to catch up, because journalism might be not catching up such a speed. And my final question, we are getting really over the time, but since you are becoming a professor in the university, I would like to ask role of university, very critical point, because now, of course, we can find many activists like artists, so they are individually doing, but I feel the more increase of the importance and the role for the at university and also institutions, culture institutions, to make a kind of social, protocol as well. Because an artist stimulation is okay, but how to change our society? I think a single artist or activist can't change. I feel this kind of important, urgent role in the university. Would you tell us what's going to be the, role of university? Because, university is not just, teaching about the know-how and the knowledge, but I suppose this becoming to be a more kind of platform, for tomorrow. Would you tell us your statement? Maybe
I also have a very current example, because actually I was always thinking, so for example, when we got the Corona app, in Germany it was like that universities were included, but in Austria, so in the beginning there were no research, not an official university were part of what a Corona app actually has to do, or what are the challenges and whatsoever. So I think these places have to come more into the foreground, and they have to more to say when it also comes to politics, when it comes to policy making, when it comes to this kind of question. And I think this is very important, that on the one hand that we are translating all these processes, of course, with our students, within our colleagues, but on the other hand, I think it's very important that we are working on very current things, on on issues that are burning under our nails. And I think it's very important that we really also try to get in contact, so to have a chance at least to have a say, or at least just to say it, and to maybe then use, in our sense of the Art University in Linz, also artistic means in order to promote our ideas, especially also when it comes to unbalanced situation where we think, okay, this is only done or developed by companies, and there is not even a research institution officially asked to come in.
Thank you. I believe from what you said, I believe the also importance of art, in this context, interdisciplinary, and also visualizing and also creating new dialogues, from scientific approach. But we need art, to make a kind of bridge. Thank you very much, Manuela. It's time. I hope today it's very big, deep talk from beginning to the end, and I hope you understood the point, how, we are facing to the difficult moment, but the understanding of the data, and also creating dialogue by artistic processes and also artistic actions are very important. So we envision in a way, the artistic journalist together with Manu. Unfortunately, today is a kind of final edition about home delivery on artistic journalism for home delivery style. And I just would like to thank you for all watching at this content. And you remember, first we focused on understanding AI, and the second was AI music. And today, so here we talked about the deep issues. So artistic journalism is, I hope you understood the point. We are creating new places and dialogues to stop to think and to act for tomorrow. And we don't have much about opportunities, for doing so. Through many artistic activities and also cultural institutions initiatives like this, hope you understood this is a new kind of way to participate in the creating the future. So thank you very much. So then it's time. Once again, thank you very much, Manuela. Then so see you next time on home delivery. Bye-bye.
Bye.